Okay, it is 6:03 according to my clock, and we have a couple members here, so that'll count as quorum. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting for June 20th of the Community Development Committee into session, or to order, I guess. And let's see if we could call the roll. I am here and Councilmember Christensen is here. Councilmember Mayhew has asked to be excused. He is currently traveling. So unless there is disagreement, go ahead and excuse him. All right. So he is excused. And that takes us to the agenda approval. Unless there is any disagreement, we'll go ahead and assume that the agenda is adopted as presented. Okay, excellent. So we'll consider the agenda adopted, and that takes us to public comments. Unfortunately, I don't have the Zoom open. We don't have any members of the public here in the chambers to speak. Are there any members on?
Just folks in the city.
Okay. All right, not seeing any members of the public joining us remotely. So we'll go ahead and move to the next thing, which is the minutes, which I'm okay to approve unless my fellow council member here has anything. All right, then we will adopt the minutes as presented. Okay, we have one agenda bill, quote unquote. I'm not sure, does it have an actual? Oh, it does have an actual number. Okay, great. AB 23087, which I believe that Community Development Director Arteche has just a little bit of information to present. It's not a massive presentation or anything, but that's mostly going to be about the land that the city owns that could maybe be presented, could potentially be developed. Maybe we'll see if it's developable or not. There are a couple of studies going on related to it. I believe that there is a map attached as well, which I'd love to see on my screen if I can get internet. And then we'll have a short discussion about that as well. So Community Development Director Arteche.
Evening, council members. My name is Emily Arteche, Community Development Director here in Snoqualmie. I put together this simple agenda bill to help facilitate your discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Does that work? Yeah, can you hear me out?
I think it's
Is it on?
try it again.
Good evening. My name is Emily Arteche, the Community Development Director here at the City of Snoqualmie. I put together this simple agenda bill, AB 23087, to help facilitate your discussion. This is a continuum of the discussion that we had at the roundtable on 6/12/23. At that meeting, I heard the council members come to a conclusion about doing things that will cause more housing that is needed in our community to happen. Those are just direct quote from one of our other council members that is not in attendance tonight. And from that discussion, I was hoping to just show you an updated slide for next steps. If you'd like to see that, I could share that as well.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So I updated this slide with, as you can see, there are 5 proposed steps to take. So step number 3 was revised and step number 4 was revised. Step number 3, to submit a comprehensive plan for what is feasible. And step number 4, to ask county, state for tools or enablers to help city. And then after that, the city would move to a request for reconciliation.
Excellent. Thank you.
So as a follow-up, Chair Johnson asked about taking the opportunity to take a look at one particular parcel ending in 9092, and consider it as an opportunity for affordable housing. There is a short background section about this particular parcel. It was previously owned by Puget Sound Western, and then essentially deeded to the city as part of a short plat, also known as Kimball Creek Village short plat. I do have a parcel map I could bring up, or if that would be appropriate. Okay.
Please.
All right. So this is a map of the parcel in question. This is city-owned property in the brownish color. It does continue over into a separate parcel off to the west. And this parcel is surrounded by a buffer, a critical area buffer, and wetlands shown in this blue pattern background.
Not a great shape for a house.
I did inquire about having a wetland biologist come out to the site and just verifying this information, which conditions can change over a number of years, changing the form of the wetland and or the buffer size, depending on when it was last evaluated and how that how the habitat score actually is calculated.
So then on this map here is the 2.3-ish acres. That's just the part that is in the brownish, or does that include the blue, the 75-foot buffer?
Well, that's a good question.
It's okay if you don't know off the top of your head.
So I believe that the parcel boundary is right here. It's this inner line.
Okay.
Typically, at the time of a short plat, the parcel remains on its own. The buffer and the critical area remain in a separate tract.
Okay.
But we could verify that.
I did want to also note that Councilmember Watton and Councilmember Benson are here, which does technically give us quorum in the room. That said, there will not be any action taken tonight. Okay. Thank you, Community Development Director Arteche. Anything else you wanted to point out about the map or this parcel?
No.
Any current studies that are being done about it to determine its usability, et cetera?
Like I said, I'm pursuing a reconnaissance level, study on the actual location of the wetland and the buffer. If things should look different than what appear on this map, I mean, I can let you know.
Excellent. All right, Councilmember Christensen.
So I had a couple questions, and it's completely acceptable if you don't have an answer to them. For the street that looks like it's going in at the bottom left-hand corner, do we know whether it would be possible to, if we were going to add housing, whether we would need to come from the parkway or whether we could link up with that street?
This street right here.
Yeah.
This is a sensitive area tract, a critical areas tract. Not a great idea to build through a critical area.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought that the brown was the buildable.
So the net buildable acreage is not shown on here. It's just showing city property. And these are actually two separate lots. Happy to bring up parcel boundaries on King County if you'd like to see.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have a comment?
I was gonna say that's your cheapest option. Cause
Yeah.
coming off the parkway, you're gonna have to build a bridge.
Really? Okay.
It's not gonna be a very big bridge, but it will be a very expensive bridge.
A bridge is a bridge.
A bridge is a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll look more like a driveway, but it'll be a bridge.
Okay. Is it because of the drainage that runs on the parkway? Okay.
And would
And
that have to
also
have a
the-
culvert?
Yeah, and we also have the main sewer line running down that side of the parkway also. That will
Okay.
have to be dealt with.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, you said a bridge here?
To get into that site from the parkway, it's gonna require a bridge. Just like it does across the street.
You point if you need to, but.
Hmm.
Okay, now I see where that boundary is. So the, in the other map, that's brown part is in two parts. There's the part that kind of comes down and has the shape that's, shown on the King County map. And then the rest of it is obviously the rest. Interesting.
Okay. So can you, let me look back.
Pardon?
I'm just trying to reconcile what I'm seeing on the exhibit versus what's being shown on King County's for the parcel viewer.
Yeah, so this is the actual parcel that we're talking about.
Okay, so it's just the portion to the right as opposed to the larger portion to the left that would meet up with the street?
Just this parcel here that's shown and highlighted in blue.
That's very different.
Very
Okay.
different.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor.
But the other parcel is also city property, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they're all city property.
Discuss
So-
all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just this parcel here, it is a separate parcel with a critical area on it. It appears the critical area is stemming from this stream right here. But and it also appears that it was recorded as a sensitive area tract.
So do we know then, and I know that legal isn't here, if it's been recorded as sensitive areas tract, does that affect our ability to go forward with it? Would we need to partition the parcel or do something along those lines in order to get it reclassified or?
It depending on how it was recorded, I mean, I think it would require a little bit more research. You could go into a recorded plat and amend it. It would be a minor or major amendment to a recorded plat. If this northern portion of the tract was truly not a critical area. But if it was, I mean, if the entire area was some sort of critical area and, and that's why it was placed in a sensitive area tract, then it would be very difficult to build on it.
Can you add the lines that shows the terrain, maybe the critical areas?
Yeah, because there's some
To that.
topography. at play
Yeah, I
there
was curious
as
about the
well.
topography as well.
Yeah, the critical areas, and this is very common, often all of the critical areas don't show up for a local jurisdiction. What the county has is often very, it's sometimes very old data, it's not very current, and they certainly don't have a very good understanding of the local critical areas. So I'm not really seeing a critical area on the northern portion of the property. I do see this little, looks like a small pond or something like that,
That would be one of
Yeah.
the stormwater
Yeah.
retention
Yeah.
ponds,
Yeah,
right?
that's what it
Yeah.
looked like to me.
but I don't see anything up here, but it doesn't mean that there isn't anything up there. And that could be part of our reconnaissance level work, just going out and verifying truth founding the adjacent parcel.
Now, the part that's outlined in the blue, doesn't look particularly steep apart from the part that's right next to the parkway, obviously. But the other section that is to the west, that's in the brown on the other map,
Mhm.
that looks like it's a little bit steeper.
Yeah,
and
it
might
drops down.
require some sort of fill of some sort, which could change the price of development. It's not that bad. Okay.
The bad is getting from the parkway down
Right.
in that basin.
This little area here.
It's about a 50-foot elevation difference between the parkway.
Didn't see the
ground.
numbers. Okay. 50 feet, that's too far. So then I do see that there is a connection again on the other map in the brown that is not cut off by the buffer. I wonder if that's wide. Well, no, I guess you could compare it to the parkway to see if it's wide enough to fit a car through. Doesn't look like it. Maybe you could fit a bicycle through there. Yeah, there's that little tiny, what's the proper geography term? Isthmus?
Oh.
Or-
Yeah.
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 That's the one.
Yeah, peninsula, yeah, that connects them. You could fit a bicycle across it, but it does look
Oh,
like it might be,
here.
yeah, too small for a car based on the size of the parkway.
Which would be problematic for emergency services.
Right. Yes. Okay, yeah, that part that's on the right there really does seem very cut off. It's difficult.
Yeah, it also has a steep ravine there.
Much.
Councilmember Christensen.
For the person who's coming to do reconnaissance, are they looking at both parcels?
We have not
Okay.
formalized the scope of work for them, but yes, they could look at both parcels.
The letter.
I think it'd be helpful to have that information for both.
This is the most current information we have on where the critical area actually falls on the property. So you can see that it goes quite a bit ways into that other adjacent parcel.
And
Yeah, Councilmember Christensen.
do we know how old the data is or the images are on the buffer?
I do not.
Okay. So it would be nice to get some updated information. Maybe things aren't quite as bad as they look, especially for that part to the east, but
I mean, I have to assume that this was done really quite a long time ago, right? If we have the Snoqualmie Parkway going through the buffer. Is that a fair assumption?
Well, the parkway doesn't go through the buffer. It's separated. The buffer is this
further
darker
to the
blue.
east.
Yeah.
Oh, over
Jeff,
here.
you're-
Oh,
Yeah. And also some houses are built on the buffer.
Yeah.
you also have to just keep in mind that we're talking about GIS and this
Yeah.
is not survey level.
Right.
So oftentimes there's an inaccuracy there.
Mhm.
Okay, so then the part that was again to the west, that does, that there is a road that dead ends there. Could potentially make that developable just right there, that the road just dead ends right into it. That you could either do some sort of housing, assuming that it's buildable, of course. You could either do some housing there, or if we were to do a land swap kind of thing, that we could figure out some useful commercial use for that spot, coffee shop, who knows what, and then build the housing somewhere else. But at least there is a road that goes right up to that property line, if it's developable. But what I am hearing, I think, is that it sounds like we do need to get some more high level reconnaissance of that land to see how usable it really is. Because we can't do a land swap even if someone can't build on the land, because it's useless to them. Right? One other process that I'm aware of that can be used, although it can be challenging to make it work, is I believe that if there's a development somewhere else in the same watershed, that potentially land that's critical can be swapped with other critical land that is being preserved by the other project. I think there are some developments to do something like that. I don't know if that could apply here at some point in the future.
You're talking about wetland mitigation, offsite mitigation.
Yes, yeah, offsite mitigation.
It's not swapped. It's It's, when it's available, it is a provision in the municipal code. Another type of provision that can provide offsite mitigation when on-site mitigation is not feasible.
So this could be a situation where on-site mitigation is not feasible, but being right next to a road like that, in the middle of a city, it's not exactly pristine wilderness.
True, but the city has provisions in its code for mitigation sequencing, which the first part of that sequencing is to avoid. If it is truly a critical area, by definition, we would be required to avoid an impact.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Councilmember Christensen.
I just had a question. So what's illuminated right now on the shared screen on the King County IMAP, the parcel viewer? It seems to indicate that there's another portion past the stormwater retention pond, going back to that one that drops down lower that may have some topography issues as well. But it looks like there's another big chunk all the way down there that isn't included on
Yeah.
the document that was
So that,
attached here.
yeah, that property, that parcel is pretty large. I can just highlight it here.
Because it looks like it's half again as much down below that isn't included
Yeah.
here. I see that some of it would likely be within this buffer or, within the wetlands themselves, but I just can't tell.
Yeah, so this is just the boundaries of the parcel.
It looks like that might be right in some sort of a creek bed or something like that.
Right here, yeah.
If I'm mapping it right here, I think it comes down this way.
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
I mean, it's just the more information we can get about how we can possibly accommodate the affordable housing that we need to within the city is going to be helpful in the conversation, but everybody knows that.
Yeah, no, I think that it's absolutely worth doing the extra work to assess the site because we don't have anything else. We got to work with what we have. And if we can turn that into 10 units, there'll be more progress than nothing. So I think that it's worth the effort for staff to continue the reconnaissance of the land, really characterize the topography. What's it really like? How much does that agree with the King County map? And most importantly, what's it really like? And then where are the buffers exactly? Where exactly, is it buildable, et cetera? I think it's definitely still worth our time.
Okay.
So it sounds like it might be a little bit premature to run and find a developer and say, hey, want to do a land swap with us when we don't know enough about the land. But once the time does come, one of the things that I'm hoping that we can get out of the Wider Valley Consortium for Affordable Housing, I forgot the official name, something task force. What is it, Rob? Task force. Perfect. Thank you. I knew you'd know the name. So what I'm hoping, one of the things we could get out of that is some developers that would be interested in working with us, that let's say that this does pencil out, at least in terms of that it could be built on in some way, that we could go to them and say, hey, we've got this land. What would it take? What do you need in order to be able to build there, either the housing or do a land swap of some sort? The thing is that we need to know who those folks are. And we need to know who we can call. But again, I think it's still a little bit premature since we do need to do the analysis of the land. I don't think I have any other questions. Do you at this point?
No, I think a lot of it will just be dependent on what the critical areas and environmental protections need to be to go forward. And once we have that information, we'll have a clear picture.
Anything else from staff, mayor, on this?
I don't have anything else, other than I did sit through the Affordable Housing Task Force where we spent probably an hour or so talking about this. And so then maybe Councilor Watt might have some additional
I was gonna
Councilor Garrett.
invite, yeah, I was gonna invite Councilmember Watton. Normally, of course, for the benefit of the public listening in, normally we just have the community members speak, but sometimes other council members have valuable information. We don't want to just keep them quiet. So, Councilmember Watton, if you have anything you'd like to share, I would love to hear.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, and perhaps
Microphone on?
Is the mic on?
I don't know if
Just
that's
want
on.
to double check.
Doesn't seem like it is.
all right, thank you, Chair Johnson, and perhaps Director Artecha can help out. Could we take a look at the King County parcel viewer? We were doing this as an exercise because there's a number of properties along Snoqualmie Parkway that the city owns. That's just kind of an easy one to identify. But if we go down the parkway, Ms. Artecha, could you go down the other direction?
Downhill.
That's okay. It's all.
Toward the model train.
There we go. There you go. Okay, so in that one property that's 37600.
Right.
For instance, it's up on the other side of the parkway. That's known as the fire station, and we've got almost 17 acres there. And that the fire station is on the front side of that parcel. So that is one area we may want to look at as being viable. It's a little flatter perhaps than the other one. And if we go up the parkway, back the other direction, there we go. To the left. The other one that I'd like to take a look at, and we have some city utilities on it, is at 7902. And it has the benefit of the intersection that goes into Fisher, this Fisher Avenue and Snoqualmie Parkway. It's relatively flat. We have some public owned facilities on there. May require us relocating some of those. So I think that that's another area that we could take a look at. Yeah, Mr. Chambliss is really excited about that. I knew it would make you excited.
Lift station?
And there are some others up around the schools as well that are city owned. And I think the other thing we need to take a look at is when things were platted 25 years ago or now 30 years ago, what was considered wetlands then versus what is wetlands today may be different.
Mhm.
And we didn't have a housing crisis back then. We do now. And to the point earlier is, can there be mitigation done where we maybe relocate a retention pond? We have quite a few of them because that's valuable land. So I think that we shouldn't leave any stone unturned. The other consideration is one of the possibilities is annexation. But if we do that, go down that road, we're talking about 10 years before we see any real progress. Whereas if we could take our existing properties, we could be as early as 3 to 5 years, maybe 7 years, if it means relocating facilities, that sort of thing. But it would get us there sooner than later. And I think the final thing that I want to point out, and that is the Department of Commerce needs to hear from us that our priority is not putting 2/3 of our housing in something that we can't afford, but we need to address the 50-60% AMI that work in the valley, that they need a place that's affordable, they can live here. And from an economic development standpoint, The $450 a month they're spending on transportation costs to get here in single occupancy cars can be money put back into the economy. And so it's not just housing, it's our economic development, well-being. So this is a good exercise for us to go through and figure out, okay, how feasible is one parcel versus another parcel? And then we can decide, how to move forward and designating certain parcels for affordable housing. So I appreciate doing this exercise in this conversation, just to get things started.
Yeah, thank you. Now on the idea of retention ponds. So one of the things that I'm wondering about there is my understanding is that the water runs down and there are actually two basins in those ponds. Am I remembering that correctly? That one part is collect like heavy metals and stuff like that that float to the bottom, and then some contaminated water might flow over like a berm that's in the middle. Dr.
So
Shambles?
that's one design.
Okay, but that's not the only ones that we have.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I was just worried about the heavy
But-
metals.
If the engineer anticipated a heavy sediment load, yes, oftentimes they bifurcate the chambers so that there's a collection area, a settling area. Unless it's a high flow and then it'll go over the top.
And obviously that would have massive impacts on our stormwater, of course, if we went that route. So needless to say.
Well, once those, I'm not saying anything's possible.
Right.
It usually only costs a lot more money. But those are all permitted through Department of Ecology, and we would have to go back and re-engineer all that and do those permits. Which is not a quick process and it's a very expensive process. And one of the problems with trying to do this type of housing is you want to keep those costs as low as possible because it affects the bottom line at the end. Earlier, when you're looking at that parcel with the road that then ends, that's definitely the cheapest way to go to get access to that property. Trying to come off the parkway when you got a 30 to 50-foot drop, you're talking an engineered structure that's gonna be at least $1 million.
And where's it gonna go? It's gonna cover up most of the lot, isn't it?
Well.
Either that or the critical area.
it Definitely would take up some area.
Now on the, let's see. Oh, right. So on the plot that's next to the road that dead ends into it, that road, is that where the Habitat for Humanity is? That's what I thought. So anyway, there's already that type of housing there, and I don't know if that's an
Director
organization we can work with.
Arteche and I discussed it and really to do any type of planning without at least a surveillance level survey. We're just playing what ifs.
Yeah,
And we
Absolutely.
need that information.
I completely agree.
And we need to go through and identify the other possible parcels and pull the trigger on getting that information for those two.
Yeah, I guess we're just at a point of some level of desperation in terms of trying to find land. And that means we're looking at non-ideal land that takes a little bit of extra effort to analyze and find a way to make it workable. And that does mean more work per unit area of land space for staff, but I don't know another way forward other than to just find a way to get that work done to survey those pieces of land. I didn't realize there was so much next to the fire station. Can we just look at the terrain really quick next to that one, the topography? I just wanted to get a sense because I thought there was a hill there, but
Not too terrible. It's just.
yeah, that's not bad.
culturally Sensitive on that side of the street.
Right. Okay, so you do have a hillside that's on that right that might be a little steep, but the part that's to the west isn't so bad.
Who owns the property behind that? If you don't mind my asking.
Should be able to click on it, find out that one.
Yeah. City does.
No, the one
The
behind
big-
it though. Right?
Yeah, the big, that piece, that's us, isn't it?
I seem to recall that long before my time, there was this concept of better way that I thought there was going to be some sort of housing development back there, and that that was converted to the current situation with the fire station and then the little housing and the commercial that's on the south side of the road. Anyway. So I know I think there's a history of a concept of housing over there, but that for various reasons that didn't happen. Might be some culturally sensitive issues.
Yes, there is.
Well, it sounds like we have our job cut out for us, and we'll need some additional research to be able to figure out where the best location would be to meet this housing need and to meet the numbers that Commerce has provided for us. I do really appreciate the information that's been provided thus far, and look forward to trying to sort it out.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, I think that that'll wrap it up, or any other thoughts. All right. Then I believe that is the end of the agenda. Just double check. Okay, there being no further items before us, and unless there's any objection, we'll go ahead and adjourn. All righty, at 6:40. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.